Thank you. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I thank you very much, all of you, from ISKCON of Bergen County. I've heard a lot about it, but I've never had the opportunity to visit yet. So hopefully I'll be able to visit there. I first moved to New Jersey at the beginning of the ISKCON New Jersey in 1981, and that's in Tawako, and things developed from there. And so I chose today's topic of chanting the holy names of the Lord. And first, I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the father of Sankirtan, and Lord Krishna, and all the devotees. And getting permission from you all to speak, getting your permission from those who might be senior, either by age or advancement in Krishna consciousness. So, in speaking about Krishna consciousness and Krishna Kirtan, which is one of our main activities in the Hare Krishna movement, of course, you know, there's 9 processes of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. And Lord Chaitanya specifically was emphasizing hearing and chanting the holy names of the Lord. And you know that after his father passed away, a couple of years later, he went to Gaya, and there he met his spiritual master, Ishwarapuri. He had met him previously in Navadvip, but there he again met in Gaya. And if you recall, does anyone recall that? I'm asking, not a rhetorical question. Do you remember what happened then? It's okay if you unmute yourself. No? Do you usually have interactions with the group or no? Or is that something I shouldn't do?
Well, we can, definitely.
I'm sure Ram Tulsi probably knows. But anyway, you might be a little shy because I'm a new person. I don't know you so well. But Lord Chaitanya went there, and he was a great scholar. He had already defeated one of the most prominent scholars in all of India, Keshav Kashmiri, and he was known as Nimai Pandit. But when he met Ishwar Puri, who was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri in the line of Madhvacharya, Ishwar Puri said, he told him that you're murka. You know the word murka? Murka means you're a fool. You're a fool. And how do you say it?
Murak.
Murak. Okay. In Sanskrit, Bengali different, but Murak. So Lord Chaitanya, of course, didn't respond. Oh, what do you mean? I'm not a fool. I'm a pundit. No, he accepted the order of his spiritual master. And Ishwarapuri then said, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatiranyata. Chant the holy names, chant the holy names, chant the holy names. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, no other way, no other way for spiritual realization. And he said it 3 times. I don't know if any of you are parents. I assume probably you are. Sometimes you'll find that if you instruct your child or someone who's easily distracted only once, it's not effective. Do you ever have that experience? You have to repeat it and repeat it to make sure it really sinks in. So therefore, the Vedas say 3 times, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam. And the Krishna consciousness movement, this is such an important activity. When Srila Prabhupada came to the West, he brought with him the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, following the direction and order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his spiritual master. And he began chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in New York's Lower East Side. You know the story. And we could read in the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita and other books how just by chanting regularly the Hare Krishna mantra in the temple on 26 Second Avenue and in Tompkins Square Park or Washington Square Park, so many people became attracted by the pure chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So that's the movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and was predicted also by Karabhajana Muni to Maharaj Nimi, that in this age of Kali, the incarnation will come. He's not blackish like Krishna, but he's a golden form, and he's always Krishna Varnam, always he's in the same category as Krishna, but he's not the same bodily feature as Krishna. Sango Pangashta Parshadam, and he's surrounded by his associates. Jagyar Sankirtana Prayai, and he'll perform the Sankirtan along with his associates. Yajanti hi Sumedhasa, and those who are very intelligent, Sumedhasa, they'll participate also and join him in the Sankirtan movement, Sankirtan Yagya. So you might be interested to know, I don't know if anybody on the call was recently, not that long ago, I think it was in January, there was an opening of the temple in Khagar, North Bombay, Nava Bombay. Did anybody happen to go there? No. It was a little bit famous because Narendra Modi happened to show up on day 2 of the installation of the deities. But when they had the installation of the deities, the temple room was packed. It was a beautiful, huge temple room, very ornate. Many deities were there, and there was many rituals going on to bathe the deities. But one thing I noticed is that in the midst of all the different mantras that were chanted, for quite a while, there was no Sankirtan going on. So I inquired about that, and some people said, well, it's because if the chanting of the holy names the Hare Krishna mantra, it'll ruin the mantras of the installation of the deities. And I was surprised about that, because back in 1975, when Srila Prabhupada had installed the Krishna Balaram deities in Vrindavan, he invited local Brahmins to participate in the installation. But in the purports in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Srila Prabhupada describes it in Madhya Lila, he indicates that although the local people wouldn't have accepted the installation of Krishna Balaram without the local Brahmins' participation, he thought that the most important part of the installation, any guesses? Yagyara Sankirtana. What's that?
Chanting of holy name. The Hare Krishna.
Yes, Sankirtan, the chanting of the holy names. So this is our most important method and most important yagya. Sometimes we find that so I afterwards I lodged a inquiry with the deity worship ministry. So what's going on? How come? And they apologized. To their credit, they apologized that yes, we told them that it should happen, but somehow it didn't happen. Of the installation, that the Sankirtan should go on. But anyway, so they agreed that should have gone up. It was just a mistake. So of all the different kinds of yajnas that we do, sometimes like on a special holy day, we might do a yajna for Lord Nrsimha or some other purpose or some bathing. But along with all those other kinds of rituals, the most important ritual, the most important activity, although it's not technically a ritual, is always chanting the holy names of the Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami, in his commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, describes that in Kali Yuga, if you want any other activity, any other kinds of devotional service to be successful, it should be preceded and followed by kirtan. And just as I saw Ram Tulsi Prabhu, he began this Zoom class with some kirtan. Isn't it? Who was that on the kirtan?
His Holiness Kadam Kanun Swami
Yeah,
Maharaj.
I thought it was Gadamakan Maharaj. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so that was auspicious. Everything will be successful, beginning and end with kirtan, and then also the distribution of prasadam. So it's really very valuable to meditate on the importance of chanting the holy names, particularly nowadays. Of course, when I joined the Hare Krishna movement back in 1971 and thereafter for a long time, devotees were living in the temples mostly, and our opportunity to chant the holy names in kirtan were taking place many, many times every day. Mangalarti, Guru Puja. After that, there's morning arti, then all day on the Fifth Avenue or other streets chanting the holy names, then evening arti. So 4, 5, 6 times a day, all day, we're we were engaged and we are engaged in chanting the holy names in kirtan. Nowadays, we may not have that much opportunity. So whatever opportunity we have, we should really make an effort to chant, to participate in kirtan as much as possible in order for our hearts to become clean. Lord Chaitanya, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, who's got a lot of things on his plate, you can imagine. He took the time to every night, every single night, not just one night a week, but every single night, to hold nocturnal Sankirtan. Bhaktivinoda Thakur called it the nocturnal academy or of teaching, the nocturnal school of kirtan. Every night for at least 1 year, Lord Chaitanya was holding the kirtan. So just like if you have a medicine and you have to take a dose of the medicine, and if the dose is strong enough, properly dosed, then the disease can be cured. But if the dose is only rarely done or not often enough taken, then will the disease be cured is questionable. Do you follow? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Enechi Aushadhi Maya Nasi Baralaki, Harina Mahamantra to Vimagi. That this Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the medicine to destroy Maya. So, like any medicine, it must be administered according to the doctor. And what does the doctor say about chanting the holy names of God? What is the dose that we need for progress and purifying our consciousness?
$16.
Minimum, yeah. That's one dose. That's one way of looking at it, minimum. And of course, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridhavrata namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasite. Always chanting my glories, or regularly chanting my glories. And Lord Chaitanya in Shikshastakam says, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarodapi Sahishnana Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada Hari. So always chant. Of course, always can also mean regularly, but of course, minimums, there's the japa, minimum 16 rounds, and also the kirtan regularly, as much as possible is very important for us to purify our hearts, which are caked on with grime for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's, if you have a pot that's not been cleaned and polished in many years, it's harder and harder the longer it is been left that way to clean off the dirty parts. So our hearts, my heart, has been dirty for a long time, hundreds and thousands of years. To clean it, you need a really good detergent, and that's given to us, but you also have to apply it regularly for it to be effective. And what is the dirt? What is the dirt on our hearts? That false, we're convinced that we are this physical body and that satisfying the needs of our physical body and or the physical bodies of our kith and kin or countrymen, countrywomen will be the goal of life. It'll make us happy. Even though we've seen no one else has become happy permanently that way, still we have some abiding faith in that. I know that one of the first times I went to India, I came into the airport in Bombay, when it was still called Bombay, and I tried to get a taxi from the airport to the temple, which isn't that far, Juhu Temple, Juhu. And there was a line of taxis as far as the eye can see. At that time, the taxis weren't government controlled, but nobody would give me a ride. No taxi would give me a ride. You know why? Maybe you've had that same experience. Everybody was waiting for an Arab. Because an Arabs used to fly into Bombay and they would come in, for recreation, and they give the 1,000 rupee tips to the people. So everybody's waiting for that happiness, what they never got, as far as the eye can see. So that's our hope against hope, that we're going to get some great happiness from the material sphere, but it doesn't happen. So if we can come to the conclusion or the awareness that our real life, which as you have done, our real happiness is from within by engaging in devotional service to Krishna, then we can make progress in our chanting by learning to do it carefully and according to the methods and the directions of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. You might know this story that Srila Prabhupada was in Montreal and it was 1969. And he was walking back from the temple to his quarters, his nearby apartment, with the temple president and some other devotees. And it was just after a very rousing kirtan at the temple. And the temple president was saying, he said, wow, I really enjoyed that kirtan. And Srila Prabhupada immediately shot back. Kirtan is not for your enjoyment, it's for Krishna's enjoyment. What do you think of that? I had a hard time getting when I first read that, this was told by Pradumna Prabhu, my godbrother. So I had a hard time wrapping my mind around that, because usually I think of kirtan as automatically for Krishna's enjoyment. Just to, you water the root of the tree and all the parts of the tree are automatically satisfied. I'm just, okay. But there's some hint there that sometimes kirtan can be done with an undue focus on one's own enjoyment instead of Krishna's enjoyment. What do you think about that? Is that possible? Yes, no? Anyway, I
Yes,
guess.
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Could you give an example?
Without Krishna's enjoyment, we cannot have any enjoyment.
Yeah. So is it possible sometimes we do kirtan more for our enjoyment than Krishna's enjoyment? It happens. It happens. And I was going to talk a little bit about that today, just because to keep us kind of me and us in a good consciousness when we chant the holy names. You know the meaning of the Hare Krishna mantra, right? Who knows? I'm asking. I usually like to get a little back and forth here. That's just the way I do things. And I don't mean to be too pushy, but
It's in your name.
what's that? So what is the meaning of the Hare Krishna mantra?
Radharani and Krishna, please engage me in your service.
Oh, Srimati Radharani, yes. Oh, Lord, oh, energy of the Lord, please engage me in your service. So it's a genuine call. And where in the mantra do you find the idea of service? Where in that, those words, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Where do you find that? I'm asking. Hello? Because they're all names. And Hare and Krishna. The Hare is the vocative form of Hara, another name for Srimati Radharani. So in Sanskrit, if you're addressing somebody or calling someone directly, then the Hara changes to Hare. Hare, oh Krishna. So if you call somebody on the phone, have you ever called somebody on the phone and then the person answers and you just don't say anything? Has that ever happened? Or if you get a call on the phone and the person on the other line doesn't say anything, what do you think is going on? It's weird, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Yeah, it's weird. So we're calling Hare, we're calling Krishna. What are we calling for? What are we calling for? Hello, Krishna answers, you're calling me. Yeah, what do you want? Oh, devotional service. It's in our call. It's in our interest. It's in our emotion. We're calling Krishna. Please engage me in your service. And an interesting thing is, back in 1972, Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to the temple president in New York saying, at that time, now we have enough devotees. 1972, okay? We have enough devotees. Now we should focus on improving the quality of our devotional service. What's the use of taking milk and watering it down so it becomes very weak? But milk, if you boil it down, it becomes sweeter. So now in the Hare Krishna movement, we should boil the milk, which means to help to train our devotees to improve the quality of their service. 1972. Okay. So, of course, now we're many years later, but the same idea applies. If we were actually in a very good level of efficiency and of Krishna consciousness, then our ecstasy of serving Krishna would be very strong. But we still need to make further progress to go back home, back to Godhead, and to fully please Krishna. What are the obstacles to our progress? Well, Lord Chaitanya mentions that in the second verse of the Shikshastaka. He says, Nam kari bahuda nija sarva shaktis tatrarpita niyamata smaranena kala Etadrishi tava kripan bhagavan mamapi durdaivami dirsamihajani nanuraga. Oh, my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction upon the living beings, and therefore you have hundreds and millions of names, like Krishna and Govinda, etc. In these holy names, you've invested all of your transcendental potencies. And there are not even any hard or fast rules for chanting your holy name. But unfortunate as I am, I have no attraction for them. That's kind of where he's putting himself in our place. I have no attraction for them. How can I get attraction for them? That's a big deal, a big question. The Lord Chaitanya says in that verse that there are no hard and fast rules for chanting the holy name. So are there rules for chanting the holy name or not? What do you think?
No rules, but we have to protect ourselves from being offensive.
What do you say? Yes. Yeah, others. What do others say?
In one sense, there's no rules, but on the other side, there are rules. So, I mean,
So-
in one sense, Mahaprabhu says we can chant anywhere, anytime, any place. But
Anywhere,
then-
anytime, any place. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are no. It's not that there are no rules, but that the rules that are there are not hard and fast. You follow? Emphasis on the hard and fast. In other words, if somebody is a meat eater, they can still chant Hare Krishna. We don't recommend that if they want to make further progress, but we're not going to stop them from chanting Hare Krishna. You follow? For example, Allen Ginsberg. He was a famous poet in the early years of the Hare Krishna movement, and sometimes he would come and chant Hare Krishna. And during the mantra rock dance in San Francisco, that was very famous, it kind of got the temple off the ground there in San Francisco. Srila Prabhupada even had him chant the holy names in that assembly. He led the kirtan for a while. Now, he didn't have him lead in the temple, but he was, and Allen Ginsberg wasn't he wasn't following the four regular principles by any means. But so it's not hard and fast. They can be adjusted. But if you want to make further progress, then let's look at what are those things that can help us make further progress in improving our kirtan. Does that make sense? So the rules, but they're not, and you mentioned there are 10 offenses, but sometimes we commit offenses. But we try to avoid them. And gradually, as we practice, sadhana means practice. And why do you practice? You practice, people practice, on the swimming pool, they practice in the basketball court, they practice to get better. So we practice to get better. And even in elite sports, they've got so many people gathered around to try to help a person improve their performance, isn't it? There's they're taking videos of their performance and seeing, oh, where can you improve this little bit, and there's a coach there who's reviewing it. Yeah. So in the Krishna consciousness movement and the how to improve your service, how do you improve? Do you follow the question? We got your spiritual master, and of course the spiritual masters, and Krishna is within the heart, so sure, that's for this improvement. But also, we have association devotees, and when Lord Chaitanya said, "I have no attraction for the chanting of the holy names," unfortunately, the very next verse in the Shikshastakam is, one can chant the holy name of Lord in a humble state of mind. What does humility mean? Humility means I realize I got to make progress. if you think you're already there, well, you're not humble. You know, when I first started working with, when I was assigned to work with the Indian devotees, Indian congregational members in New York, and I thought, well, how will I do this? I started to try to preach to them just like I preached to an American person. It didn't work. They would tell me, I'm Indian, I know everything. I'm Indian, I know everything. Anyway, I was kind of shocked by that. Of course, they didn't really mean that. I know that, but I realized that I had to make friends with them. They could trust me a little bit. Then we could talk on a more friendly level. Then they would appreciate. But anyway, if we think we're already at an advanced stage, we already know everything about Krishna consciousness, we're not going to take a humble position, we won't make progress. There's a dearth in our uh, path. There's a block in our path to make progress. So in that regard, it's essential that in order to make progress in spiritual life, we have to ask for help and how can I improve from the Vedas, from the spiritual master, and from other devotees. Important. And that's why, you know, it's wonderful that you're having these classes regularly to hear about, you know, ways to engage in devotional service and hopefully improve those activities. So I'll a question so far. I've already talked for about 40 minutes and I probably bored you a little bit, somewhat. What, any questions or comments or observations before I go into some details?
Probably one question or a point. You mentioned that where in the Mahamantra is devotional service mentioned. Can it also be taken as the example that you gave makes sense? Also, can it be concluded that when an acharya comes and gives us the meaning, you know, then we take that also as authentic?
Yeah, certainly. So Srila Prabhupada says it's like a genuine cry of child for the mother. You've heard that?
Yes.
So yeah, so like if I say, I don't know your name, but Pradeep or Pradeep, depending on how I call, depending on my emotion, I convey in that emotion the reason for my call. Similarly, the genuine cry, like a child will cry for the mother, and the mother hearing the child's cry, oh no, they're crying for me. They're crying for, they want me there. So there's the genuine cry. You could, it's conveyed in the emotion of the child, but it's also there. Yeah, as you said, it's also there in as the purpose of the mantra, as given by Srila Prabhupada and other acharyas in our descent line of succession. Yes. Other questions? Was that okay?
Yes, thank you very much. One other question that comes to my mind is,
Good.
what would you recommend how to develop determination like the initial devotees? You know, I understand that Prabhupada's presence, Prabhupada's mercy was there, and you know, devotees were willing to give their life. But from all these years of experiences, ups and downs, what would be your recommendation to us in not only being determined in doing our sadhana, but how can we increase it a notch up every year?
Increase a notch of determination every year. Well, it's a good question. Good question. I would say that the more association you have with devotees, and particularly advanced devotees, including Srila Prabhupada's teachings and example, will give you great determination. Jayadvaita Maharaj was he was there on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada, and he said, he asked Srila Prabhupada, when Lord Krishna is speaking Bhagavad Gita somewhere in this material universes, and if we are Krishna conscious and we leave our bodies, can we go to the place where Krishna is speaking Bhagavad Gita and hear from Bhagavad Gita from Krishna directly? Guess what Srila Prabhupada said? Guess. He said you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait until you die and go to that other universe. He said you can associate directly with Krishna by reading Bhagavad Gita right now. You don't have to wait. So similarly, although we devotees of we disciples, I should say, disciples of Srila Prabhupada, we were very fortunate to have the direct association with Srila Prabhupada in those days. Actually, now there's even more opportunity to associate with Srila Prabhupada, because in those days, Srila Prabhupada would come through in New York. I was in New York once a year, and so we could hear directly from him that way. But now you could listen to a lecture of Srila Prabhupada every day because it's all recorded. And not only his direct instructions are there, of course, and when I joined, we only had like 2 books, that's all. There's so many literatures now that Srila Prabhupada authored. Plus, there's Prabhupada's activities, which are as good as Srimad Bhagavatam. Mahajano Jena Gata Sapanta. The Christians, they have the saying, WWJCD. Have you ever heard that expression? WWJCD. What would Jesus Christ do? If you have a question about how to do things. So we in ISKCON, we think, what would WWSPD? What would Srila Prabhupada do? He can guide us in our everyday life because he was dealing with situations just like you and I are dealing. It wasn't that long ago. So in that way, we may even have a better opportunity to become determined to follow in the footsteps of great devotees and Lord Chaitanya now, with more opportunity to have association in that way. That's my now. Back then, we couldn't read Prabhupada's letters. Now you can look at all the letters, and I do quite often. There was a controversy. There was a controversy about peacock feathers. Hear this controversy, Ram Tulsi Prabhu? Should Lord Chaitanya wear a peacock feather? Some people say, Lord Chaitanya, the deity form. Some people say, well, he's Krishna, but he's in the mood of a devotee. So if you have a peacock feather, have a peacock feather on his crown, then that's disturbing his mood as a devotee. Oh, okay. Well, there was a controversy about that. The Gaudiya Math actually says like that. They say you can't do that, peacock feather. Whereas mostly Lord Chaitanya deities in ISKCON, they usually put a peacock feather. So you can search in the Veda base for peacock feather, and you know what you find? You'll find that the cowherd boys used to wear peacock feathers all the time, and you'll find that when the Govardhan Puja sacrifice happened, they decorated the cows as they were going circumambulating Govardhan Hill, and the cows were decorated with, any guesses? Peacock feathers. So it's one element of Krishna, but it's not exclusive to Krishna. So certainly, yes, Lord Chaitanya can wear a peacock feather. The cowherd boys can, cows can, sure. So we have given a greater opportunity to hear and understand Prabhupada's teachings now than we did in those days, I think. although you're correct that the inspiration of Srila Prabhupada's physical presence was certainly wonderful. It's still available. That was a long answer. Was that at all helpful?
Yes, very much, Prabhuji. I actually never thought about that. What you mentioned that devotees like yourself really didn't have access to these letters, didn't have
I was-
YouTube, you didn't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
Spotify.
I remember thinking, gosh, Srila Prabhupada only comes here once a year, and usually at the most he'd stay a week in New York, sometimes 3 days, sometimes. But I said, gosh, why doesn't he come here more? Why does he stay here more? But then, there's a book called The Great Transcendental Adventure by Kurma Prabhu. So in the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, you'll have like 4 or 5 pages of Prabhupada's activities in Australia. And the Great Transcendental Adventure is Srila Prabhupada's more elaborate coverage of his activities in Australia and New Zealand, 600 pages. So they said, oh, now I know what he was doing all that time. I had no idea. I had no idea what he was doing. Yes, he was doing really wonderful preaching work all over the world, but I didn't know because we didn't have social media or we didn't have any record of what was going on. You follow? Like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Other question? I'll just say a few suggestions for kirtan. That's kind of my thing, kirtans. I don't know if anybody's read Jayadvaita Maharaj's book on Srila Prabhupada's kirtan standards. Yeah. Some people say it's shocking. But I joined ISKCON in 1971 before a lot of the changes that have taken place have happened. So it resonates with me a little, probably more than some other people. There's some very good stuff in there. I agree with practically almost all of it. But it's probably essential reading, I'd say. It's a wonderful book, and the quotes are from Srila Prabhupada and also from devotees who've heard from Srila Prabhupada, so secondary quotes. But a couple of things I would say is one of the first rule of kirtan that I like to emphasize for devotees everywhere is the first rule of kirtan, any guesses would be to chant. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, chant. And there's a few obstacles that have been occurring that come up to chanting in kirtan over the years I've seen. One of the first things that becomes an obstacle nowadays is that when people play the drum or devotees play the drum or play the kartals, there's a tendency not to chant. Have you noticed this? Yeah.
Yes.
And so I didn't learn directly from Srila Prabhupada, but I learned from a devotee named Madhusudana who learned from Srila Prabhupada. He taught me the drum. So he told me that Prabhupada told him this. He said, if you're going to play the drum, you got to chant. Otherwise, don't play. That's what he told me. Oh, okay. And so I was reading in the Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava, which is a nice book by the history of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He said almost the same thing to his disciples who were playing fancy beats on the drum but weren't chant. He would chastise them, said, no, you must chant. That's called parampara, right? Parampara. So there's perhaps because there's not as much practice or not as much emphasis, there's a habit that can continue to develop, that there's more emphasis on playing a drum or playing the kartals than chanting the holy names. But the drum and the kartals and everything, all melody, the beat, everything is really to serve the holy name. It's not to overwhelm or take the place of the holy name. So parents and anyone, not just parents, everyone should, it's a good idea to encourage their children to learn. When they learn, they must learn to practice chanting at the same time. Because if you don't learn to chant at the same time in the beginning, it's very hard later. There's something called a critical period. Have you ever heard of this critical period? Like when ducks are first born, there's like a 24-hour period where they'll follow anything, so you'll see the ducks following their mother across the road in a single file. So just for that 24-hour period, that's what they do. But otherwise they don't, it's imprinted in them. So similarly, as you search, especially with kids, as you first learn, you get your habit about how you're going to do it later. So if you learn to do it correctly early, to chant along with it, then it'll stay with you. But if you don't, it's going to be always a struggle. I'll tell you that when I first went to India, I stopped in Benares on the way from Bengal to Vrindavan. And in Benares, Lord Chaitanya stayed in Benares. He taught Sanatana Goswami there, and also the Mayavadi sannyasis. But in Benares, since Lord Chaitanya stayed there, they were going to have a Sankirtan memorial celebration for Lord Chaitanya. Just happened to be there when I was going through. So I wanted to go there. I wanted to go and see what's this Sankirtan. So I went there early in the morning. I was on the bank of the Ganges, and I saw like 500 people gathered, and each of them had somebody had a drum, somebody had a bugle, somebody had a saxophone, cartel, everything, and all of a sudden they all started to blare out their music. No tune, no tempo, no kirtan whatsoever, just enthusiastic noise. That's it. And that was Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan. Can you believe it? After 500 years, it's come to that. It's come to this. So hopefully that's not going to happen in ISKCON after 500 years or 200 years or 300 years. The emphasis on chanting the holy name. So that's one thing that happens, is that devotees play instruments without chanting, and then the instruments take over, and it drowns out the chanting, and you can't hear the leader, and you can't hear your own chanting. And another thing that discourages chanting is when devotees lead with complex tunes. It's sometimes very fashionable to somebody to sing very artistic tunes, but nobody can follow. That's Prabhupada recommended simple tune. He always, you can look on the prabhupadvani.org, and there's 31 recorded recordings of Srila Prabhupada chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. 31. And over half of them, he chants the simple tune, Hare Krishna, Krishna. 30, over half of them. Another quarter, he chants the morning tune, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So 3/4 are very, very simple tunes, very simple. And there's some others that are a little more complex, but that's more for bhajan. Anyway, so that's how chanting when playing, karta playing, then simple tune. And then the other one is not to play the instruments too loud, so they drown out the mantra. Sometimes I spoke with Sri Krishna Chaitanya Swami, who's the kirtan minister. By the way, he always wears earplugs when he goes to kirtan. Interesting point, because he's worried that he's going to have his ear problems. He's going to go deaf, because a lot of times there's not enough care. One devotee told me that every time he goes into a kirtan, they have one of those smart watches, and it goes off. Oh, it's a dangerous decibel level. So be careful about that, because we don't want people to have to choose between keeping their hearing or going to a kirtan. Be careful. You can actually, the Sri Krishna Chaitanya Swami said that he's arranging for any temple to get a decibel meter if they want, free. You can contact you can find his, just to make sure that the kirtan should be sweet and melodious, but not clangy bangy. Those things. Okay. So just some quick, very simple and improvement. You're probably doing a wonderful job already. And I actually have to offer obeisances to anybody who chants the holy names. Je bhaje she boro. Lord Chaitanya said, anybody who chants the holy name, they're great. Jai Bhaje Shebodu. But these are just little finer things that can help. And this is just the beginning. There's a bunch of other ones, but I just thought I'd introduce it. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I know I've taken time. Other questions or comments? Hopefully it was some help. Hopefully it was of use to you.
Yes, Prabhuji, very much. Thank you. Did Prabhupada, what was his opinion about, or what did Prabhupada say about different instruments? I know initially devotees didn't have many choices, or there weren't mridangas, or even they knew how to play, but later on, playing like a flute or any other instrument along with mridanga, and sometimes
Sure.
devotees to say harmonium was discouraged.
Yeah, I know that in Jadreda Maharaj's book, there's one letter where Srila Prabhupada said that harmonium is not for kirtan and arti. So technically, my understanding of that was, which was not exactly in line with Jadreda Maharaj, is that in arti, we're supposed to be standing up to welcome the Lord. So arti, generally, you didn't have harmonium going on, but there was no restriction to kirtan with harmonium, and it was often done. There's so many, but not during the arti, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I was going to play some. We don't have time now, I guess. I was going to play some videos of Srila Prabhupada in New York, and Bharadwaj, Gauravani Pracharani now is Gauravani Pracharani. His father, biological father, was a very good kirtan leader, and he would always lead with harmonium in the temple, in Prabhupada's presence, and Prabhupada loved it. Other instruments, flutes, the basic instruments, of course, are kartal and mridanga. One of the reasons that harmonium is a little more difficult to use is because it's not a percussion instrument per se, meaning like with the kartals and mridanga, you can hear the beat. Whereas with a harmonium, it's not easy to hear the beat and you get off the beat, if you know what I mean. Because it's not a distinct beat from a harmonium. So, that's my take. And other instruments, it depends on the venue. Every morning in a temple, there's the greeting of the deities. What are those instruments going on in that greeting the deities? Govinda. You got all kinds of instruments in that recording, aren't there? Isn't there? There's a guitar, or a bass guitar, and some harmoniums and things. Okay, so it's within reason. It's okay. The trouble is if people get too much into the melodies without remembering to focus on the holy name, that can be a distraction. So we try to avoid that. But within reason, the other instruments are okay, especially in venues, public venues. Not as much in the temple, but maybe when you're performing outside, yeah, that's okay. What do you think?
Yes.
There's a picture of Shyam Sundar with an Esaraj. People play tablas. There's one letter where Prabhupada said, not for kirtan and arti. There's also one letter where Srila Prabhupada says, better to avoid mustard seeds. But anyway.
What was that? Avoid?
No, it was just the point being, there's one letter that Srila Prabhupada said, better to avoid mustard seeds in cooking.
Oh,
Mustards.
There was a devotee who was writing a cookbook back in 1971. His name was Krishna Das. You can find his letter. Look under mustard. And Prabhupada says there that better to avoid mustard seeds because they're agitating. Yes. But that's not an absolute instruction. Srila Prabhupada, you go to Mother Jamuna's cookbook and she has different preparations, and Prabhupada, she said that Srila Prabhupada really liked it. And there's mustard seeds in it. So how do we know what's a rule, and how do we know what can be adjusted according to circumstances? Srila Prabhupada was asked that question by Shruta Kirti. You've heard this before?
No.
So Srila, so the question, he said, it's a good question. He said, that takes a little intelligence. That's all he said. That takes a little intelligence. What is a rule and what can be adjusted? Yeah. Krishna. Thank you for the questions. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. So I say sometimes the first rule of kirtan is to chant. Chant Hare Krishna. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. Well, thank you for your kind attention. And wow, there's 25 devotees here. Do you get a good turnout? Ram Tulsi Prabhu.
Generally, is doing more, Prabhu. Somehow devotees are for Janmashtami, maybe they're preparing. So I'll give me a few minutes, Prabhu. Let me make some announcement. So Hare Krishna, everyone. So we have really very important festivals that is coming. One is Balram Purnima, that is happening on Friday, August 8th. It is 6 p.m. onwards. It will be in our center. And as Janmashtami is also on the way. And devotees are engaging. Please participate on the Janmashtami services. Anybody who is not engaged, kindly let us know. We can engage you. This is also will be on the same center, same location that we did last year. This as we did Saturday program. So we are anticipating many devotees, many devotees to come. So Saturday. So Saturday, August 16th, 5:30 p.m. to midnight. This will be on 37 Brook Avenue in Maywood. So a lot of devotees already preparing a lot for this. And
is that your regular place or no?
No, Prabhu. This is a bigger place.
Okay.
Regular place, we will not be able to fit the devotees. We did first before COVID. We were not able to manage this very tight. So because we're anticipating more than 1,500 to 2,000 devotees. So last year also was about 1,500 devotees. So a little bit difficult for the parking and everything. So every Wednesday we have Wednesday Sangha. So as today we have His Grace Vishnugada Prabhu speaking with us. This Sunday, maybe Ramchandra Prabhu, some devotee will speak this Sunday. And weekly Bhakti Vrikshas, you can join in different locations every Friday, 7:30 p.m. onwards. There's an in-person program that is really very important to cultivate very close relationship with devotees. Very wonderful association you can get. So every Monday to Friday we have Bhagavad Gita reading from 12 p.m. to 12:15 p.m. in the same Zoom. And every morning we have a japa. You can join every day from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. So meditate as Prabhuji is pointing out on chanting holy name. This is a wonderful opportunity to chant with devotees. And you can also visit our ISKCON calendar where you can see all the events, all the Ekadashis, fast breaking, everything you can see on the ISKCON calendar. So you can also subscribe the calendar to your Google Calendar integrated. So that is there for you. So anybody has any questions for Prabhuji? It is very important topic, but very simple and sublime topic, and most important topic for Krishna consciousness for sure.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Koti Vaishnavanda ki jai. Prabhupada ke say. So I would like on everyone to unmute and thank Prabhuji with Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hare
Krishna,
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 Hare Hare,
Hare Ram,
Ram
Ram
Ram,
Ram.
Hare Hare. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hari
Prabhuji's
Bol.
name is
Hare
Nana
Krishna,
San.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hari Bol.